Giggles podcast. We're back with another episode. We're going to get straight into it today. We are talking recovery 101. So we'll break it down a little bit more exactly what we're talking about. But before we start,
we're going straight into it, but before we actually go into it,
we're nearly getting straight into it. Yeah. A little quick detour first. Today, this episode, we're celebrating the fact that last episode aired.
But we didn't have the cupcakes.
But because I was thinking about it, I was like, if we had celebrated last episode, we were celebrating before we'd actually aired the episode. But now we're celebrating because that episode aired. And what happened by that
really roundabout way, but yep.
Episode airing put us into the top 1% of all podcasts that have ever been. So, on that note, we would like to celebrate.
Yeah.
With a little cupcake.
Forget our candles.
Celebration! I was going to wear a party hat, and I'm going to have a little bite.
That's a little bite.
Yeah.
That's
a little bite.
That's not a little. That was like a third of the cupcake.
It was mostly icing. That tastes good.
Was it?
But we did it. We have hit the top 1% of podcasts, statistically speaking.
So, guys, show your loyalty.
Thank you for listening.
Good old share.
Yeah.
Or just a message. Say thanks.
Thanks for listening along this far.
Yeah.
Hopefully we keep going and we,
Yeah.
But thank you. We made it! All right, this is our last episode.
Joe Rogan.
We're done now. We've made the top 1% and we're out.
We're going to move on. We're going to sell candles.
Yep. And cupcakes. So, back to where we were before. The episode today, we are talking about recovery. And I was actually thinking about this a little bit more detailed today because we're driving straight into it. When I'm thinking of recovery, I'm thinking of like 3 different mechanisms of recovery. So in no particular order, this isn't in like, this is more important than the other one, but in no particular order, the 3 mechanisms that I'm thinking of is the first one is like a biomechanical recovery. So is it joint stiffness or soreness that's I'm focusing on recovering, or is it like muscular pain or like DOMS or something from a muscular skeletal standpoint that I'm trying to recover? The second one would be like a nutritional factor. So it could be whether I'm eating enough calories or whether I'm eating the like right quality of calories. It could go down to supplementation, whether I'm getting enough protein through, I mean, you should be getting it through your diet anyway, but we'll argue that protein could be a supplement. So it could be supplemental like protein. It could be your creatine, whether you're recovering enough through your sessions or whether you're cramping heaps and you need a little bit more magnesium. So it could be like a supplemental, but all in all would be like a nutritional standpoint that I'm trying to recover. And then the last one would be an overall kind of relaxation sort of metric that I'm trying to recover. So that could be the amount of sleep that I'm getting, the quality of sleep that I'm getting, could be used as something like a float tank, which is going to allow the central nervous system to recover everything, to kind of like zen down and relax and recover. And then I kind of just thought of a fourth one, which would be like a hormonal kind of, but I don't know necessarily how you would recover that. It'd more be just making sure that things are in place, in check, to enable a good, how do you say it? Like a good hormone regulation, making sure that you're creating a good enough environment for the hormones to regulate properly and produce properly. Which would be like stuff like your vitamin D. If you don't get enough vitamin D and zinc, then your body can't produce testosterone and then you can't recover properly. And yeah, so those sorts of things. But I don't know how you would recover those. So maybe we'll just stick with the top 3.
Yeah.
We'll just go back to the 3.
I would honestly say that if you had your nutrition and like your sleep or like that kind of zen recovery, your hormones are probably going to be fairly well in balance.
Yeah, they're all going to tie
nutrition
together.
Is going to be a huge factor into it. And then if you're sleeping correctly and having that downtime, then like your stress levels or your cortisol levels are going to be, and I'm going to say balance, not gone, because I think cortisol is good in a way. So, and that will keep it more balanced. So, but I get where you're going with it, and I know why you're going with it, because for the last year, that's all you've cared about.
It wasn't all that I cared about. It was highlighted to me, so there was a very heavy focus there for a while. But yes, there was a focus on that area for a while, just because it was highlighted to me. So, but yeah, it's important though. It's very important, and if you know that there's a deficiency somewhere, and then you can fix it, like you're gonna put yourself in a way better position recovery wise from it. So, yeah.
No, I would say I look along the lines of that as well. So I was messaging you literally like a week or two ago, and I was like, dude, I can't eat enough.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, oh, you're such a sook. And I'm like, but eating is so boring and time consuming, and
we do not think the same when it comes to this.
It just interrupts everything. Like if I eat, I'm going to have to wait like an hour and a half before I can properly train. Unless I'm doing a lifting session, which doesn't happen often anyway. Like, that sounds bad, but like, and so then like I have to watch when I'm eating and what I'm eating because of training, because I'm trying to recover. Well, I'm trying to fuel for training and recover for the next session. And it's just, man, it's just a lot. I'd rather just sleep. I'd rather nap. Actually,
I'm not going to be sympathetic for you here, sorry.
Well, after watching you take a bite out of that cupcake.
I take eating very seriously. Just a little bite.
Yeah. So, all right. Should we focus on the first one you're talking about then, like biomechanical? So, like, we're talking about foam rolling, stretching, physio, chiro, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So that's those sorts of things. So even on a simpler scale, stuff that you can do in the gym on a daily basis would be stuff like you said, foam rolling, the lacrosse ball, so getting a lacrosse ball into your lats, into your traps, into your hips, everywhere. Massage guns are another one that I find that like that percussion that you get from the massage gun. I don't know about you, but I can like sit there and I mostly get my leg at the moment. But I can actually get the same sort of like muscle twitches as when I get dry needling done from the massage gun.
Yeah. I get a huge benefit from the massage gun.
Yeah. Huge. So I think they came out ages ago and it was kind of like gimmicky, like, oh yeah, that's cool. But now, like, if they're used properly, they're actually such a beneficial little tool to chuck into your gym bag, I find. But yeah, I reckon that the lacrosse ball, the massage gun, foam roller is like a staple. Another one that I use quite often is the voodoo floss, which is, for those of you who don't know, you just wrap it hella tight around whatever joint, like your calves, your quads, your knee, your elbows, whatever, and it kind of like compresses the muscle. And then after that, the amount of like pressure relief that you get from that, I don't know the scientific methods of how it kind of works or anything. I'm not going to pretend to know, but it feels great. So if I do that before a training session, like I just feel so much more mobile through that joint after. So like warming up feels so much easier as well.
I think from when I was reading about the floss bands and all that, apparently the theory, I'm not going to say science behind it because I was just reading what they were writing and obviously they're trying to sell me on it.
Yeah.
Is that when you create compression, and I would use the word hyper compression on that joint or over that joint or muscle, is you're actually like compressing the muscle fibers together.
Yeah, right.
And then when you know how you're supposed to go through range of motion or range of movement with when you got the floss on, that creates or breaks any adhesion that you might find in between the muscle fibers. And then when you release it, it brings in new blood because obviously the blood's been blocked out. Yeah. And then that just helps to flush out any toxins from the adhesions that are there. So that's what they say. I personally put all massaging and all stretching because the science is so hit and miss. The only thing I've not found anyone to argue with me on this, and like I'm sure I'm going to get messages now, bring it.
I'm ready.
When you're stretching, you're stretching the muscle, right? But you're mainly trying to get an immediate reaction or immediate change in the fascia, which is kind of the clothing that wraps the muscle. And if that's tight, then the muscle can't move outside of its boundary, right? And so if you can loosen that off with massage guns or anything like that, then that helps the muscles to move a lot better. So then the floss bands might just be doing that. They might just be like scrunching up the fascia around the muscle.
Yeah.
Then when it releases, it's obviously more relaxed. The muscle can move better. Joints feel less tight and everything. So when I'm talking to people and I'm like, hey, you should be doing this and this and this, and they're like, oh, but I've heard stretching and massage doesn't actually change the muscle. I'm like, maybe it doesn't, but the fascia definitely will change. Maybe not permanently, but it will change. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, and I get their shirt and I like scrunch it up underneath their armpit, and I'm like this, and I'm like, all right, try and lift your arm overhead. I'm like, you can't, right? But if I was to let that go, you've got all this range now. Yeah. Because the fascia's loose, the clothing around that movement or that joint is loose.
Yeah.
That's
even if it's like a temporary thing, but then you're actually facilitating more movement through the muscle.
Yeah.
If you can like long term get rid of the stiffness through the fascia, then you're going to be in a better position anyway, aren't you?
Hugely. Yeah.
Yeah. So another one that I would add onto like the musculoskeletal side of things would be like going and actually seeing someone for a massage, whether it's a chiro as well, physio, something that's going to externally give you some sort of muscle release, or whether it could be joint release that you need, but somebody in a different professional realm that can facilitate that for you. I know not everybody's a massive fan of physios and chiros and whatnot, but if they're going to give you what you need, then they got my tick of approval.
I think you just need to find someone that actually knows what they're doing. And that might come down to, like, you might have someone like a chiro that's really good on working the hips, but they're like terrible when it comes to like the shoulder, the glenohumeral joint.
Ooh,
and so you're like, well,
words.
I know, big dog. So you're obviously not going to go to them for that. But if you've got hip issues and you know they know how to work that, then just stick with them for that. Like, yeah.
And I think we've talked about this previously, but finding someone that is training in, it doesn't even have to be specifically CrossFit, but someone that trains in like a functional fitness sort of realm, that understands what snatching is and what muscle ups are, and that you're doing handstand walks and you're having shoulder impingement issues, someone that's going to be able to work around those things with you. Because if you just go to a general chiropractor or a general physio and you'll be like, yeah, I'm doing handstand push-ups this week, they go, oh, you shouldn't do that.
I literally just saw like 25-year-olds when I dropped my kid off at school doing handstands. Why can't we?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but that's just like the theory, right? That people were like, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, we literally were born to play and do all this stuff. And then just because we get old, we have to stop it. Like, no, like the kids are doing it and they've got like the coordination of a baby giraffe. Like, at least we know. At
the best of times.
Yeah. So, yeah. You know what blows my mind though is the lack, sounds so judgy, but the lack of physical fitness in the physio and chiro world.
Yep.
Like, I'm like, man, if you guys are fixing people for health, maybe you should be the example.
Well, I think the generalized like view of, if you put like health, sickness and whatnot on a spectrum, and I'm going back to like the CrossFit basics here. CrossFit, so actually I'll start with the normal kind of theory or thought process of it, is like you've got sickness over here, and on a spectrum you've got health over here. So you're either healthy or you're sick, or you're somewhere in between. And what CrossFit has done is they've challenged that metric and said you've got sickness over here, you've got health in the middle, and then you've got fitness down this side. So we don't want to just be healthy, we want to be fit. So we want to be somewhere in this spectrum, not because I think it was like the dictionary's description of health is it's the, what's the word of
the
not? It's the absence. I was like, it's the not presence. It's the absence of sickness.
We've gone from using like biomechanical to the not presence.
The
of
not
sickness.
presence. But yeah, so like having that metric, just looking at it in a different light, I reckon is different.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of like you're having that higher standard that you're going to choose to live by. That's a cool thought, hey. Yeah.
Anyway, back to recovery. So that kind of touches most of the bases for like a biomechanical standpoint.
Yeah.
Is there anything
Can I just quickly just say
that
if you
no, you can't.
I'll say it longly.
We're doing so well with words tonight.
At least we're hitting all spectrums.
Yeah, exactly.
If you are injured, you know what? This is gonna.
You're not doing well at quickly.
Sorry, chiros and physios. 70% of the time, if you can get on top of it quickly, the massage guns, the lacrosse balls, and all that will actually help prevent the injury. However, seeing a professional will help prevent that risk of injury. So they might be like, okay, you need to do more of this around the shoulder joint and all that stuff. And that will require you then to not have to do the lacrosse ball.
Yeah.
So
it
doesn't fix everything.
Prevent the severity of the injury, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Next was, what did I say? Was it
nutrition?
Nutrition next, yeah.
Yeah.
So nutrition, this would be like a pretty basic. We've talked about this a lot. Making sure that you're eating enough food, making sure you're eating enough of good quality food, and then the other one that I would dive into a little bit deeper would be the supplementation stuff. So hypothetically speaking, you should be getting the majority of your protein through your diet. You shouldn't be having 4 or 5 protein shakes a day to get your protein levels. If you are, bad, naughty, do better. But sometimes if you're trying to get 220 grams of protein in a day, it's quite hard to get that volume through food alone, especially if you're being strict with your calories as well.
And if you're training twice a day, I think that limits a lot too. Yeah,
because you've got to give your body time to digest everything. Mm-hmm. Yep. So protein's a pretty basic one. The other ones would be magnesium. I find that I notice quicker if I don't take magnesium on a regular basis, that I just don't feel like my muscles fire as well for as long. So halfway through a session, I'll find that I'm not moving anywhere near as efficiently, not the actual quality of the movement, but I don't feel like I'm putting enough effort into the movement because I don't feel like I can. And that would be, I notice that when I'm not having enough magnesium. And then I feel like I'm not recovering as quick as well. So my aches are way higher, and I find that magnesium is. But like I said previously, I'll have nearly 4 times the recommended amount of magnesium a day.
Just so everyone's hang on. KPow has 4 to 6 times the recommended dose of anything a day.
This is true.
Caffeine, zinc,
actually,
magnesium.
I found out today. I won't throw them under the bus, but I found out today that there's somebody out there that puts my caffeine levels to shame.
Oh, I already know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but that being said, they also said that they're like, oh, I realise I'm not having as much caffeine at the moment, and I was like, I can't do that, but good for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd be bang on with the guess. I'm going to text you later about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the micronutrients and the stuff like your amino acids that you can supplement in that's going to help you from a nutritional standpoint. Stuff like I said, magnesium, creatine is going to be another one. We've touched on that a few times now. Any other ones? I'm
a huge believer in zinc. I think.
Oh,
zinc,
yeah.
That's the one that I've felt the most difference with.
So
hugely.
I won't take zinc specifically by itself. I'll have a multivitamin that has, I think it's got 20 milligrams of zinc in it, which is what you'd normally get in a zinc supplement by itself, roughly, depending on which one you get.
Yeah, I take zinc by itself, but then I also have zinc, magnesium, and aspartic acid, the ZMAs.
Yeah, yep.
At the same time as well as that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I also do a maintenance dose of iron. Just to make sure that that's on top.
I pump enough throughout the day
to... Do you?
Clearly not. I need to up my iron intake.
Yeah, you do. No. You know how you can do that? Oh, no. That's going to be controversial. That's going to
bring
up
now.
Opinions. No.
And then last one. I believe that touched on nutrition quite a lot.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about it a fair bit. But I will back up KPow and what he's actually said is that if you guys aren't eating enough, then... that is, if you're not eating enough, it's all over. It's game over. Whether you're trying to be in a calorie deficit or not, you can still eat enough to help your recovery while still losing fat loss, not weight loss. Yeah. But especially if you're looking to perform, this is funny because I've been hammering someone this week on this at the gym. I've been like, literally, I started tracking my calories and macros again purely to make them do it. Yeah, because I was
right.
I'm sick of this. Yeah, they told me how much they eat, and I was like, this is like, I'm pretty sure my 2-year-old eats more. I'm not pretty sure. I know my 2-year-old eats
me.
more.
I mean, that cupcake's half of my daily calories.
One bite.
Yeah.
You're quite low right now. But yeah, so eat enough and then eat good enough, as in the good stuff. All right, to sleep.
Well, it's not just sleep. So I would, other ways of using this sort of metric of recovery would be ice baths, would be a massive one some could argue that it's not helping the central nervous system because you get a massive shock when you get into the ice bath. But I would say that the benefits that you get long term, if you're doing it consistently, they would be like a central nervous system improving mechanism or recovering mechanism, I would say. The other one that I rate extremely highly would be ice baths. I just said ice baths. Float tanks. I love a float. They reckon that if you float for an hour, it's the same sort of central nervous system relaxing.
Down regulation.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
as about a 3 to 4 hour sleep.
Yeah.
So, because those of you who don't know what a float tank is, it's a massively high amount of magnesium salts, and it's so, like, the ratio of salt in the water is so high that you literally just float on top of the water. You can't drown unless you're face down. Don't do that. So yeah, you just float on top of the water. And then, so it's like a sensory deprivation, so you can't feel yourself in space. Close your eyes, and you just,
It's wild, man.
They're awesome. I love them.
If anyone has any hookups, that would be the number one sponsor that I would ever want.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be so good.
They are. They're so good. The only downside to them is they are time consuming because you've got to be in the float for an hour. But it took me the better part of 3 years to click to the fact that they're full of magnesium.
Wow.
And you actually absorb the magnesium when you're in there. I'm like, no wonder I feel so good after these. I had no idea.
He's like, man, I'd just be doing this to get a nap in.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I used to, like, sometimes I would wake up, go and have a float, and then I was just so chill for the rest of the day. Oh, so good. First thing in the morning.
You'd wake up and go straight to a float.
And go back to sleep.
Do you know one time I went and got a haircut first, and then went and had a float, and then because they'd use like the razor, I had like little incisions, obviously, and it was burning the whole time. It was the worst time I floated ever. But so ever since then, because I was like, I don't need that, like the Vaseline. I was like, I'm better than that, and now I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm like, got rope climb cuts. Yep.
Oh, so. Don't get in float tanks with cuts. It sucks.
Yeah.
So bad.
Vaso up. Lube up.
And then another one would be sauna.
Yeah.
So another way to just let the central nervous system relax. Obviously, if you're going in there for long periods of time in extreme heat, it may not be a central nervous system down regulation, but
changes.
Yeah. But the benefits that you get from short-term saunas and regular saunas, same sort of thing as your ice baths.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. And probably to like cover everything we've spoken about, everything we've spoken about, people will find that stretching works better for them. People find that massaging works better for them. People find that some supplements work better than others. And same thing with the ice baths and everything. Ice baths I don't get recovery out of. Like I feel like I get like a shock to the system and it drops my temperature right down if I'm overheated, like after an event or something, and I kind of like equal out a lot faster, or cold showers. However, recovery-wise, if I have a float or a sauna, or even just a warm bath or a warm shower, anything to do with heat, helps my body recover a lot better.
See,
that's just what I found.
Yeah, I have the ice baths before I train, but I find that if I'm consistent with it, I actually feel way less achy and clicky, and as like a long term, I'm trying to get the benefits of doing this daily for 2 weeks, as opposed to that just one jump in the ice bath and try and get recovery from it there. I'm looking at it as like a long term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man,
I
there's
find
no way.
Another thing,
Yeah.
that back onto the biomechanical one, I love dry needling. I find that dry needling works for me so much better than any sort of soft tissue work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and cupping is another one that works quite well for me. But yeah, if you can find a good therapist that does all of these different tips and tricks and has all of this sort of stuff in their sessions, try it, because you might find one and it just works like magic for you.
Yeah. And what'll work for you won't work for someone else, and that's fine. But you just stick with what works for you. So yeah. Some people are like, oh, you stretch so long before sessions. I'm like, yeah, but have you seen my ankle flexibility? So stretching and all that really works for me.
Yeah.
But then I know some people where stretching, it can obviously like dissipate like stability and all that stuff. And so they kind of need to do activation warm-ups, not like range of motion warm-ups. Yeah, static stretching. So
another little tip while we're talking about stretching is you should always be doing more so, I won't say always, because some people need to do static stretching as a part of their warm-up, but you should typically be doing dynamic stretching for your warm-up and your static stretching for your cool downs. So your dynamic, it has movement through your stretch, and your static stretching is, as it sounds, static. So you're sitting still trying to touch your toes. So typically speaking, your dynamic stretches for your warm-up and your static stretches for your cool down.
Yeah.
We should talk about that in the next episode.
We will actually.
Yeah.
Whoa. There's actually
good little segue.
Yeah. I actually have started. Actually, no. I've started doing this again. Is breath work. I used to focus on it heaps, and then I got way too carried away with it. And like one time, it took like nearly 40 minutes. 40 minutes to get through, because it was like the better you get, the longer it happens. And I was just it's like 40 minutes. I was like, I've lost 40 minutes of my training session. Oh, crap. And so, I'm a huge fan of breath work.
Is that like a sort of meditating?
The thing that I was doing that took up the time ended up, it became meditation.
Yeah, right.
I actually learned a lot about meditation lately. It's really cool.
That's cool.
Breathwork's been massive. I mean, I don't think everyone's going to find a huge difference in it. And if I was to tell you which one to do, breathwork is free, but you're probably going to feel a better benefit or a faster benefit from like a sauna or a float. So do that first. And you won't feel really weird in front of people.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're jumping in a freezer in the back of the gym. Maybe a little bit. No shame over here, mate. I don't care. All right. We'll leave it there. And next week, we'll talk about warm-ups and cool-downs, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
Perfect.
Should we talk about warm-ups and cool-downs?
Nah. I reckon we should talk about cool-downs and warm-ups. I reckon.
All right, done.
Yeah,
and then we'll do recovery again.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Back to that one. Cool. All right. As always, leave a comment down below on Spotify, YouTube, or DM us on Gains and Giggles at podcast. Gains and Giggles podcast on Instagram. Thanks again for listening. We will see you next week. Peace.